Sarah Marshall, you've been the Global Brand Strategy Director at Barclays and the SVP of Global Marketing at Universal Pictures. You then founded and led a multi-million pound strategy business with 15 staff in the city, leaving with what you described as a happy wallet. Now you're a strategic advisor and consultant, helping make businesses better. So thank you so much for joining me on Decoding Calm in 15 minutes. I'm looking forward to this.
You're welcome. Me too.
Let's start.
I feel like I have to be calm. I feel like I have to.
Oh, no pressure. No pressure. Do you know what? Just a very quick. When I used to talk about mindfulness at IBM, and I'd go on stages, my heart was beating about 200 beats per minute, and I'd stand there thinking, "You're meant to be the calm guy."
Yeah, exactly
So
that.
no pressure, no pressure at all. Um, as a young girl, did you always know? Did you always have a sense you were going to do the big jobs? Did you always want to be a leader? Did you always want the pressure and the power and the prestige and everything else that comes with this really senior job?
I always knew I was going to be in business.
Right.
Always. Don't know why.
From a
Always.
really young age.
Yeah, yeah. I just knew. Always knew I was going to be in business, and um, yeah, I think I probably did know I was going to be a senior leader, and to a certain degree, you kind of have to wait until you're old enough or experienced enough to have that credibility. Or you did then. I think it's changed a lot
Yeah.
now. But then you kind of had to grow into the part a bit. But yeah, I always knew.
So nothing intimidated you. You didn't think, oh, that would stress me, that would worry me.
So
What did worry you as a kid then? What?
friendships, maybe.
Okay.
My family moved a lot.
Right.
My dad worked for a bank, and every year, every 12 to 24 months, we moved. And I don't mean like moved around the corner. I mean moved from Yorkshire to London.
Oh,
So
okay.
massive moves that as kids, when you're doing that with your family every couple of years, that's hard. It's hard
Yeah.
on the kids because you don't have those enduring friendships.
Yeah. And was your dad senior in his work?
This is really a really interesting question. I thought he was, a really big boss.
Yeah.
And when I got in the banking world, there's like different management levels, and there's a management level, then there's a senior exec level.
Yeah.
And when I got my senior exec, I remember saying to my dad, "How did you feel when you got your senior exec, Dad?" And he said to me, "I was never a senior exec."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "What?" But in my mind, he was like the very top, but he wasn't.
Wow.
Yeah. And I
How
didn't
did you
know.
feel? How did you feel when you realized that?
Oh, so many emotions. Like proud that I was.
Yeah.
I think I felt a bit, oh, what's the right word? I felt like I'd put him in a bad position. I felt
Did
like
you?
I'd made him feel bad a bit,
Yeah.
and that made me really sad.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah,
It's complicated, these relationships, aren't they? Because I
massive.
wondered if some of it was you keeping up to your dad's high standard. Our dad did this, therefore I need to.
Yeah, yeah,
But then you kind of beat him in quotes.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot to it.
oh, I don't want him to feel bad about himself because he did a
Yeah.
good job. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you what the highest stakes situation you've been in is, and you can answer this either in business or in your personal life. So the highest stakes situation you've been in, and more crucially, how did you get through it?
Okay. So you sent me this question beforehand, and I've thought about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to answer the actual highest stake because the highest stake situation was probably when I was dealing with people's lives. And I don't mean that in a saving lives way, but
Right.
I've had to make a lot of people redundant.
Yeah.
And it's probably the highest stake thing.
Right.
That's so important to those individuals.
Mm.
Um, but probably, but that's just a completely different situation. In terms of business and highest stakes, probably the most high stake and ridiculous thing that I've ever had to do is fight. When I was at Universal Pictures, I had to fight over a King Kong creative. It was ridiculous, but it was worth billions, billions. And the movie studio in LA uh, had decided that they wanted, and this is so low level as well, so massive in terms of revenue, but low level in terms of the actual thing. They had decided they wanted the same creative to go out with the movie King Kong, Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Yeah.
And I was responsible for every country in the world apart from North America. And I was trying to say to the studio, there are different things that appeal to different markets. And you can't just use a North American model and think that that's going to work in Peru or Russia. It's just not.
Yeah.
Or it's not going to give you as much revenue as you want. And so the way that I dealt with it was that I just gathered my insight. I gathered data, 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 data. I flew to LA for a 2 hour meeting so that I could do it face to face. Yeah, ridiculous. And I literally went in armed with so much insight and data that it was pretty irrefutable. And actually, in the end, if the studio had decided to continue with its stance of we are going to have the same creative, they would have just seemed churlish and petty because of the amount of data that I had. So that was probably one of the highest stakes. There was another one when I had my own business. I had a client who owed me 250 grand. They decided they weren't going to pay me. I mean, yeah, it was
Wow.
that's a whole other podcast.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and I had a lot of people relying on that money.
Right.
But I did the same thing. So that, that was gather all of the data, gather all of the insight, become objective,
Okay.
become so wholly objective
Yeah.
that there's no wiggle room. This is not about emotions. This is not about feelings. This is about data.
Okay.
And
So are you one of these people that if you've done all your homework, if you've uncovered every stone, if you've got every bit of data, if you've done everything you can you
yeah,
then go to bed and say, there's no other prep I could have done. I can go to sleep now.
it's not, well, it depends on the situation because it's not just data, is it? Because if you're factoring in humans,
Yeah.
then there's a whole other ball game to consider.
Yeah.
Um, when I was at Barclays, an old boss of mine sent me on a course to it was Wharton University in Pennsylvania. And this course was called Advanced Negotiation. And I remember at the time going, why am I going on a negotiation course? This makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah.
Um, and then I had this moment of clarity whilst on the course. And basically, the whole basis of this course was if you can understand the other person's motivation, you will find a way to reach a compromise. And you'll find a way to get to a deal, a negotiation that is okay for you and okay for that other person. And actually, in high stakes scenarios, when there is a human element involved, having both of those things, having the data, so you've got all of your shizzle together in terms of your data and your insight, but you also understand as much as you can that other person and their motivation. If you
Yeah.
can blend those two things, then you can go to bed and think, okay, I've done as much as I can to understand the facts and the the emotional side of things or the motivational side of things. And so then that is, I mean, of course, there's environmental factors and everything else that's going to impact it. But if you can understand those two things, then you're onto
Yeah.
a start.
So I think I was born into a family of real worriers. And we used to joke that my nan would worry if she didn't have anything to worry about.
Yes.
Like if she didn't have anything to worry about, she'd miss something. There's
Yes.
absolutely something she should be worrying about.
Yeah.
And so my brain, I spent a lot of time, a lot of work trying to work on this. I have the kind of brain where even if I go to bed, if I've done everything, if I dotted every I, crossed every T, my brain will still go, yeah, but oh, that could happen. Oh God, if that happens, that's a disaster. And then and then I catastrophize. And it's very easy to go down that thinking loop, right? Whereas it seems some people can be more rational, I guess, in that moment and go to bed and say, I've done everything. It There's nothing else I can do. It's time for sleep. And my curiosity is, how much can we train ourselves? Are we born? Do you think senior leaders are born? Do you think people who take on the biggest jobs in the world are born, or do you think anyone could be trained to do it?
You could probably train most people to do it. Whether most people could be good at it is a different question because there is an element of self-reliance, self-confidence, resilience,
Yeah.
that it's not just the functional element of being a leader, is it?
No.
It's one I remember when I got when I euphemistically left Barclays. And I can't tell you the full story because I got a lovely payoff and I'm NDA'd.
Okay.
Um, but I had a team, probably about 50 people then. And I remember saying to my PA just before this all happened, pack my bag. And she said to me, don't be ridiculous. And I said, pack my bag, Debbie. And off I went, and I was right. And I came back and I said, oh, I had most of my team on the same floor. This was at Barclays in the city. And I just went, right, we're off to the pub. And every single person, just packed up their bags and we went to the pub because I'd built a team that were motivated and happy and worked together well.
Yeah.
And that side of leadership, I'm not sure can be, I'm sure some of it can be taught
Yeah.
and learned and trained, but there is something about human connections.
Yeah.
So that it's not just the functional side of leadership.
Yeah.
It's all of the other stuff as well, I think.
Yeah. So sounds like they trusted you as well, which is the biggest
Yeah,
thing, right? If I think of my greatest boss at IBM, one guy
yeah,
comes to mind, and I trusted him. He was actually the boss that ended up making me redundant.
yeah,
But we're still good friends, see him once a year, even though he's in Liverpool.
yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say, what's kept you resilient over the years? Because you've had some big pressure jobs. What's kept you resilient?
I quite enjoy it.
Do you?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Excuse
Which,
me.
what specifically?
I quite enjoy. I I enjoy the achievement. I enjoy the okay. So you've got to solve this really difficult problem. How are you going to do it? And then solving that gives me massive satisfaction.
Right.
So I think I enjoy doing the job.
Yeah.
Um, there are times when I didn't have resilience. I think I spoke to you about when I was hospitalized with encephalitis, stress-induced encephalitis, and I wasn't enjoying the job, and I was getting up at 4 a.m. to try and do the job that I didn't enjoy. I
Oh,
probably
okay.
applied for. I had nothing left,
Right.
and I think if that had happened a bit later in my career, I'd have probably have said no to the job.
Right.
I thought it was, I had to do it
Yeah.
to get to the. I almost had to get through it to get to where I wanted to get to.
Okay. So it's crucial for you to be swimming with the tide if you're doing a very high powered, stressful job.
Enjoying it. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Do you think you've got better at handling the pressure over your lifetime? And if you have, what tips if you could go back in time and sit down with 21-year-old Sarah and you say, look, you're going to be doing some big jobs.
Yeah.
Here's my top tip or top two tips or three tips, whatever. What would you say to her just as she's just starting out?
There's something about understanding the difference between pressure and stress.
Okay.
I thrive in pressure.
Okay.
Stress is very different. So pressure for me is a positive. Stress is a negative.
Hmm.
So there's something about understanding the difference between those two things. There's also something
How do you understand the difference? Sorry.
pressure, maybe stress is I think when there are less controllables. And I don't mean that in a control freak kind of way, but there are things in life that you just cannot do anything about.
Yeah.
Whereas pressure is more within your gift.
Okay.
So it might be a big ask on you,
Yeah.
but that ask is doable and you can influence it.
Right.
Whereas the stress of situations that are completely out with of your control
Yeah.
is you've got to just control the controllables, and if you can't do anything about it, you have to find a way to let it go.
Yeah.
But I think at the beginning of your career you don't quite understand that,
Yeah.
and there's also something about what's actually important. What does it really matter? And
Yeah.
um, I became a parent quite late, and the parents who are listening to your podcast, if you say pick your battles, they'll all nod sagely. But actually, there is something also about picking your battles in business. There are things that just let it go. It doesn't matter. And there are things that do matter. And
Mm,
so there's, do you want to die on that hill over that particular thing? No, probably not.
yeah,
So pick your battles and understand what is worth losing sleep over and what's not.
yeah,
That's probably what I'd say to my 21-year-old self. Just, and also chill out a bit. Chill out, Sarah.
yeah. So I
Up
was
there.
chatting to Harriet Green the other day doing this podcast, and she said to me how her dad was really sick when she was young, and how when she was coming back from school, she'd get off the school bus and she wouldn't know if there'd be an ambulance or a doctor. Um, and that really gave her a sense of perspective, I think, as a young, as I think as a teenage girl. And I think that definitely shaped her. I mean, she went on to have huge jobs too. And I think experiencing that with her dad young
Yeah,
almost made her think, "Do you know what? How, what is the worst that can happen in this job?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it is."
I
So I
completely
wonder
agree.
if, yeah, these, and can you fast track these things? Can you give people these experiences, or just does it just come with time? Do you think?
My mum died when she was 60,
Yeah,
and I was in my early 30s, and I think that had quite a profound impact on me
did it?
because she always used to say to me, "You can do whatever you want to if you try hard enough." And I probably couldn't be a supermodel if I tried very hard, but there are most things that you could do.
Yeah,
And then when she died, I that had a massive impact because it's similar to Harriet. It just makes you think there's something that matters and some things that don't.
yeah.
And that's when pretty soon after that's when I started my own business.
Oh, was it?
And you take a few more risks,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't, some stuff doesn't matter.
No, no.
And other stuff does. So yeah, that type of thing does have a profound effect on you, and you can't. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Like Harriet wouldn't wish that on anybody, I'm sure. You just.
No.
But there are some things that you take and you build positive experiences from, or you try to build a positive experience.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And if everybody looks at what really has deepened them as a person,
Yeah.
what really has allowed them to evolve as a person, I think the answer everybody would give is the suffering in their life,
Yes. A bit
in
of
whatever
tragedy.
form that is.
Yeah.
And there's growth through that.
Yeah.
And if I look back at the worst sufferings of my life, they were awful when I went through them, but I'll probably use the word grateful now.
Mm,
They've brought me to a better place.
yeah.
And without them, I'd probably be this arrogant, egotistical, materialistic version of me that I wouldn't like.
Yeah.
It
If
does.
my if my mum hadn't have died, I would still be in corporate life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because what actually happened was she'd had cancer and she was given 3 months to live. And my job at Universal was massively both pressured and stressful, more stressful to be honest. And I'd sort of said to my boss, I'm not traveling for the foreseeable future. My mum's in a hospice, that's what I'm going to do. And they basically said, oh, yes, you are. You're going to fulfill.
Really?
Yeah. A bit like a contract is a contract is a contract.
So part of your contract with Universal, would you go anywhere at any time, basically?
I used to travel with a passport quite often. My office was on New Oxford Street, and I would go into the office in the morning and be in New York in the afternoon.
Wow.
But I liked that. I
You
liked
did?
that. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That kind of suits my sense of, oh, this is an adventure. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Um, but I left because we were not, they wanted me to fulfill my contractual obligations, whereas I wanted to spend my last few weeks with my mum.
Yeah.
Um, and so I did that. She had a relatively good death in that it was quick. It was 3 weeks, not 3 months.
Right.
And uh, and then when she died, then I was like, oh fuck, now what am I going to do? I haven't got a job. And that job was a lot of money. Um, a bodyguard. My PA had a PA. Literally, jumping on first class planes to LA at the drop of a hat. And then I
Mm.
was like, I've got this massive mortgage, no money coming in. What am I going to do?
Wow.
Yeah, so that's when I started my own business. And I started that in my crappy loft in a rundown house that I was doing up with no money.
See, that takes guts as well.
Mate, does it? I don't know, does it? I don't know.
I think
For
it
me,
does.
I think to me, I was like, I can't, given that experience that was so bad in the corporate world, I just thought I need to try something different. I didn't wake up one morning and go, I know what else I'm going to do. I'm going to build a multi-million pound business. I just thought, shit, I've got a mortgage to pay.
Yeah. Necessity is the mother of invention, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And then, after a while, when the immediate problem receded, then I became ambitious for the business. And I had such brilliant people working with me,
Yeah.
brilliant
Did
people.
you?
Yeah. And that was fun. It was good.
So do you miss managing people, having a team?
I miss having a team of brilliant colleagues.
Yeah.
My business is called Deeks Consulting, and the people there were fabulous. And we were a gang in a positive sense. We were a team.
Mm,
I don't miss making 100 people redundant in a corporate reshuffle
no.
for 3 years.
Yeah.
But I do miss the genuine teamness.
Yeah. If there's one thing I miss from my corporate life, it is being part of a team. It's having an office to go to,
Yeah,
surrounded by people, the Christmas do. You can replace that to a point, but it's kind of lonely a bit, isn't it? When you
yeah,
step in on your own.
yeah. Take it.
You said to me just before I pressed record, we're never going to do this in 15 minutes. And you were absolutely right.
I
Um,
usually have my laugh.
I know. Let me move on to some quick fire questions. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. I could talk to you all day. It's been fascinating. You're a morning or an evening person?
Morning,
Emails or phone calls?
both. Can't.
Favorite?
I don't think you can do one or the other and build relationships.
Okay, yeah. So in person as much as
Yeah.
favorite food?
Roast,
Which meat you going for?
chicken.
Guilty
Can't
pleasure?
stand lamb. Can't stand lamb.
Can you
Mint,
not?
lamb, mint, rosemary, angel delight. If you ever give me any of those four things, we won't be friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Angel delight is just like,
I'm with you on the angel delight.
yeah.
Yeah. Guilty pleasure.
So I've got PTSD from lockdown. And one of the things, I'm not joking, I actually have.
Really?
Uh, one of the things, because it was me and a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old
Oh, wow.
on our own in a house, couldn't get nappies, couldn't. Anyway, one of the symptoms of this is like I overstock. So I've got a lot of tin tomatoes. My kids' snack cupboard, I know it's like quite funny, but anyway, my kids' snack cupboard is mental. It's like floor to ceiling. It's always full.
Right.
And my guilty pleasure is, those salt and vinegar chipsticks?
Mm.
And they're good.
They still do them
Yeah. Yeah.
today.
Yeah, they're delicious. I
Oh,
mean, if you
yeah.
wanted something more deep, I could think about
No,
it.
that's fine. That's taken me back about 35
Yeah,
years, coming home from school and my best mate's brother sitting next to me with chipsticks and me literally begging him for one.
yeah, go and get some today because they're
Yeah.
any maize-based snacks, chipsticks,
Yes.
cheesy, what those not Cheetos, what are they called? The
What's
Cheeto
it?
Puffs, what's it? They're like the prawn what, yeah, any maize-based
Yeah, I'm
snacks.
with you there. If you could invite anyone, or you can have more than one person if you want, but if you could invite anyone over for dinner, alive or
Yes,
dead, who would it be? Who?
the suffragettes.
Oh, wow.
I would invite the suffragettes and say, what the actual are we going to do? Because I've got two daughters, 6 and 7, and I am scared shitless for their future.
Are you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I really am. Yeah, I am. I
Because they're daughters, because of the way of the world, because of technology, because of everything?
all of those things, but look at the Andrew Tate stuff.
Yeah.
Did you see over the weekend there was a game, a streaming game around how to rape girls. Yeah. The Donald Trump stuff, I mean, it is like a Margaret Atwood novel is going on around us, slowly creeping, and I am petrified for them.
Mm. I did a post last week. I met this blind lady and I was walking my dog, and she was one of the most lovely people I'd met, and she had a real lasting impression on me. And we walked around arm in arm for a little bit, and then she was telling me about her dog. She'd let her guide dog off the lead and was describing how my dog Daisy looked and blah blah blah. And the post was to say that lady's a real influencer.
Yeah.
Forget the Andrew Tates and the
Yeah.
like. These are the influencers all around us. They're in parks. They're walking their guide dogs. And yet
But
the
you
people
have
that
to
get
be
the airtime and
open
the
to
money.
it. You have to be open to her influence.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are swathes of society who are looking for something and they are open to those negative, well, I think they're negative influences of people like Andrew Tate and Donald Trump and Elon Musk and people, people are being slowly cancelled.
Mm.
Anyway, this was supposed to be fun.
I was
Sorry.
going to say, have we got anything cheery to leave everybody with before I thank you for
Chipsticks. We should finish on chipsticks.
chipsticks? I'm off to buy some chipsticks. Oh, here's another fun fact. Crisps in the UK always expire on a Saturday. It's a little
Do they?
yeah, go and check your cupboard.
Well, you see, that's terrible now because on a Friday night I'm going to have to eat crisps to make sure that I'm saving the planet and not having food waste.
There we go. That's definitely the tip to leave everybody with. Sarah Marshall, thanks so much for joining me on
You're
Decoding
very
Time.
welcome.
Appreciate it.